So good morning, everybody. That was kind of weak. So good morning, everybody. It is a good morning. There's no students on campus. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. I put no judgments. But it is a good morning, at least for me, because it's a privilege and an honor for me to speak to you all about some human relations issues. I'll tell you a little bit about myself before we embark on this journey for the next hour or hour and a half or so. As you probably know from the handout, I'm a police officer by occupation. And some of you are thinking, what the heck is this cop going to talk to us about? What does he know about building safe, respectful, inclusive school communities? He's not one of us. Yeah, and you know who you are. Still let me see you driving around on the west side where I patrol. I'll remember your face. But I've been a cop for almost 27 years. April will be 27 years. And although I'm a police officer by occupation, I really don't see myself as a police officer, only because the fact that I spend as much time, if not more, in settings like this. I really see myself as an educator. I think I missed my calling. I am very, very passionate about talking to folks about human relations issues. And anytime I have an opportunity to speak to law enforcement and educators and administrators, faculty, I really, really enjoy it. My background comes from working details in patrol, gangs, street-level narcotics, drug investigations. A couple years working press relations as one of the spokespersons for the police department. I spent 7 years on the SWAT team as a hostage negotiator. I was promoted to sergeant for 3 years. I was a lieutenant for 11 years. And currently I'm a commander in charge of the West Division over on Santa Fe. Anybody familiar with that place? Yeah. The West Division is basically the west city limits to Cherry Avenue, Anaheim to the south, and Wardlow to the north. It's historically the most violent division in the city of the 4 geographic patrol divisions. I have a budget of about $17 million that I'm responsible for, and I have 120 hardworking men and women that come to work every day and try to impact violent crime, trying to build safe, respectful neighborhoods, and impacting the quality of life and violent crime, and it's a full-time job. But back in 1995, how I got started doing this stuff was the chief of police asked me to design and deliver a comprehensive cultural awareness program for the entire Long Beach Police Department. It was going to be a 7-year program. And so I got together with a colleague of mine who worked for a human relations organization in town called NCCJ, the National Conference of Christians and Jews. It's a human relations organization whose mission is to fight bias, bigotry, and racism in America through conflict resolution, education, and advocacy. So she was a facilitator from that organization. I was a facilitator from the police department. We started teaching together. And human relations can work to your advantage because we are now married. Kids. Human relations does work, folks. It's a little side benefits. But we designed a comprehensive program, and then I was asked to come on board at the Simon Wiesenthal Center and Museum of Tolerance, where I've had the opportunity to travel around the country talking to educators and law enforcement about these issues. And it seems like I haven't stopped since. I'm on the circuit traveling on the federal level, the international level, teaching delegations from France, Germany, Russia, and it's a privilege to be back here at Long Beach City College, my alma mater. Yeah. There's nobody here from Cal State, is there? Okay. Well, now here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to just keep it real. I had a great experience at Cal State and Long Beach. But I have to say some of my fondest memories, and the only reason why is because Cal State, they went to all online. You know, you do everything from home, a lot of it. In fact, the majority of it was all online. I love being in class, and I have some very, very fond memories of sitting in class on Tuesday and Thursday nights, and Monday and Wednesday nights, coming to class and engaging with the instructors and engaging with other students that were a lot older than me. No, a lot younger than me. Because I just got my degree about 1.5 years ago. Yeah, I was on the 30-year plan. I'll talk more about that later. But we're here, we're going to get started. What I hope to do over the next bit of time that we have together is get you to start thinking about some things on a personal level. It's very easy as an educator, as a faculty member, as a classified staff working in an institution like this, to dismiss so many of the things that are happening around you. And when I design curriculum, I typically design it with a personal responsibility piece integrated into it. So basically, I just want to give you a heads up that this next 1.5 hours or so is going to really be for all of you. I don't know what strategies you will walk away with. There is no lesson plan. I'm going to plant some seeds for you to think about some things and give you hopefully an opportunity to take an introspective look at yourselves to see where you stand in regards to some of these issues. And what role do you play, not your students play, in helping to build and maintain a safe, respectful, inclusive Long Beach City College campus? It's an opportunity for you, that's all it is. Some will take the information, some won't. But what you choose to do once you walk out those double doors in 1 hour or so is totally up to you. So with that, we're going to have fun along the way. It will be interactive, and we're going to get started. I'm sure you all know that there's this Promise Pathways that exists, which is really kind of cool. In preparing for the workshop for the last couple of months, I learned that Long Beach is really unique. I'm a product of Long Beach Unified School District. I went to Willard Elementary. I got thrown out of Willard. They sent me to Bryant Elementary. Then I went to Jefferson Middle School. I went to Wilson High School. I came to City College, and I went to Cal State. So I'm kind of, although Promise Pathways wasn't formally in place, I'm a product of that seamless education and that process that now exists for so many of the students that you deal with. And it's very fortunate, we're very fortunate to have this here. You know, when I think about the pathway, and you know, in the booklet and on your website you have all these different things of what formally this program is all about, which is great. I also added some other things that I think people come to this campus, PCC campus and LAC campus, and to this institution that's been here for so many years for a lot of different reasons. Everybody comes for their own reasons. My mom, who's 80, comes to City College. Yeah, she struggles because Joey, she talks with an accent, she's from the Middle East. The teacher says, I'm not going to pass the class, you have to help me with my homework. You know, it's a computer class. I can't help you, Mom, with computer. I don't know nothing about computers. But the teachers hold her accountable like everybody else, and guess what? That's cool. You know, whether you're 18 or you're 80, there's equity. Everyone's held to the same standard, okay? But people come here for the pleasure of learning. My mom doesn't have a degree. My mom and dad, middle school education. But there are people that are pursuing certificates. There are people who are pursuing careers in law enforcement and have the opportunity to interact with Grant Boyer here, who's a good friend of mine in the criminal justice department. They want to get a degree. They want to transition to a new career. And the new dynamic today is that with what's happening in the workplace, people are doing careers or changing careers left and right. And a lot of people come to your institution to get that experience and to get that training. The reality is that although their goal of earning a skill-related certificate or transferring to a college or getting that degree, that 2-year degree, the statistics are telling us that for some reason, far fewer people are achieving these milestones. And there's a myriad of reasons as to why these things are not happening. Here's some of them. These pictures depict some of the challenges that your students and your students' families are dealing with. Crime, poverty, living at or near the poverty level, teenage pregnancy and teen pregnancy, drugs and alcohol, unemployment, all those are major factors. And the kids and the students, I call them kids. Do we call them kids? Our students? Our students, thank you. But they look like kids. Political correctness. Political correctness. Who's heard the term? Who hasn't heard the term? Political correctness I kind of liken to intellectual dishonesty. Think about it. If we as full functioning adults cannot sit in a room like this in a safe environment and talk about and have honest conversations about these issues, we're never going to make progress. So, in the essence of political correctness, and I'll try to be respectful, I usually throw political correctness right out the door. I want to be honest and I want to keep this as real as possible. Is that okay? All right, so we're going to keep it real. So this is what it should look like, that every student that comes to this institution should have the same opportunities to succeed. Whatever their educational goal or personal goal is, the college should have in place the various strategies in allowing them to get to their goal. And one of the ways that we find that keeps kids engaged in school communities is by ensuring that the college and the school community is safe. And we're not talking about physical safety, which that is very important. And there are things that come up at this college, like every college in America, from time to time. But what sometimes gets overlooked is the emotional safety of our students. To know that in a classroom they can speak openly and honestly and ask a question, or not be afraid to go to the administration counter for fear of being treated differently, or treated disrespectfully, or being hurt. Because there are people in your field and in my field who use words as weapons. That's the reality. They want to do something physical, but they know they can't get away with it, so they will just hurt them with words. And you know that words sometimes leave emotional scars that never heal. So we need to start thinking about perhaps, or I'm asking you to start thinking about, what do you need to do to help build a safe, respectful, inclusive school community? And as I mentioned earlier, we are going to do this by self-reflection. We're going to explore three basic concepts this morning here for the first part. Stereotype, prejudice, discrimination. Stereotype, prejudice, and discrimination. And who wants to take a shot at the first one? Who wants to define stereotype? What's that all about? What's a stereotype? Brett?
Sweeping generalizations with no basis in fact. All cops are corrupt.
I don't know if that's a stereotype. That might be factual. No. Just kidding, I don't want to perpetuate any of those stereotypes, right? Yeah, sweeping generalizations that may not have any factual basis to them. What else? Stereotype, what's that all about, folks? Stereotype. Don't be shy.
Not making an effort to understand.
Oh, hold on one second. Yes, ma'am.
Labeling before you know them.
Labeling before you know them. Very good. Yes, sir. Not making the time or the effort to understand what that person or group of people is really all about. Very good. Anybody else? Stereotype, I think, many times gets a bad rap. Stereotype in just a couple of words is nothing more than a thought, a fixed thought that you have about a person or a group of people. Could it be a positive thought or a positive stereotype? Could be, but generally, what is it? Generally, it's negative. For example, for most of you in this room that don't know me, you learned I was a police officer. Probably fair to say that each and every one of you, once you saw me, automatically formulated a thought about me. Yeah, you, huh? Maybe it was a good thought. This cop looks kind of cool. It was probably a bad thought. What's this goofy looking cop and what the heck's he going to be teaching me? And you know who you are. Or maybe it was a neutral thought, perhaps trying to size me up, trying to put a label on me, trying to categorize me based on what I look like, my name, my occupation, who knows. But let me ask you this, even if it is a positive stereotype or a positive thought that you have about a person or a group of people, you think you could still run into problems? Really? What could be so harmful, so hurtful about a positive stereotype? Anybody?
Setting an expectation.
Setting up expectations, absolutely. Absolutely. Yes? Yeah, making a judgment or choosing that person over somebody else based on your stereotype that you have about them. Good, anybody else? Let me give you an example. I mentioned my wife worked for a human relations organization as a program director, and for those of you that are a product of Long Beach Unified or know about Long Beach Unified, you know that we used to, before budget cuts, used to 9 or 10 times a year take 150 high school kids from the 10 different high schools in Long Beach up to Yucaipa, to the mountains for building bridges, human relation camps. My wife used to put that program on, that camp on, year after year, and I used to volunteer. And we spend the weekend with the kids talking about race, racial identity, personal responsibility, and things like that over the course of 3 days. It's very intensive. And what I used to hear camp after camp from the high school kids in regards to positive stereotypes are things like this. I had an Asian girl come up to me after one of the dialogue groups on day 2, and she says, Joe, I come walking into class on the first day, I wear these glasses, I carry these books, I've got this extra backpack. The teachers automatically think that I'm going to be smart, straight A student. And then she breaks down in tears and starts crying and says, guess what, Joe? I'm not. I'm just kind of an average C student. And then she goes on to relate later in the day that for the rest of the year she feels invisible. The teacher won't give her the time of day because the teacher thinks she's all that in a bag of chips. She's got it going on. What I used to hear camp after camp from the blacks, the male blacks, Joe, I'm walking down the hall and I got coaches grabbing me. Try out for this team. Try out for that team. They think just because I'm big, just because I'm black, I must have all this athletic ability. And guess what many of them say? I don't. So I think it's important to point out that even if you buy into this notion, oh, it's a positive stereotype, it's a compliment, it could definitely lead into expectations. And basically when you stereotype somebody, you have the potential to strip that person of everything they have to potentially offer. When you stereotype somebody, you have the potential to put them in a box, put a ceiling over their head as to what you think they're all about, and you could be wrong. Now, as I go through these 3 terms, I want you to think about them in layers, if you will. On the outside, we've got stereotype. Now we're going to go a little bit thicker, deeper, and talk about prejudice. Who wants to take a shot at that? How would you define prejudice? Grant?
Prejudice is the action element of the concept of discrimination.
So it's tied into discrimination. Okay? Prejudicial behavior. Okay? Good. Anybody else? Prejudice. What's that all about?
Social, judge, jury, and execution.
Yeah, you're doing it all. Social, judge, jury.
And execution.
That's kind of rough. I'll stop there, man, but okay, I'm valid. That's valid. Prejudice. The answer is actually in the word itself, right? To prejudge. And another way I like to describe prejudice for me is it's the feeling that's usually attached to the thought. And many times for me, these two will go hand in hand. I'll see somebody, boom, automatically formulate a thought about that person, and then follow up real quick with a feeling. I bet you this person is this way. I bet you this person is that way. All right, it is now time for the first role play of the morning. The first role play of the morning, I'm looking for 2 volunteers to help me out. I like this because half of you just stopped making eye contact with me. Thinking, if I don't look at this dude, he's not calling me up. How you doing? In the back. Gentleman drinking coffee? Blue shirt? How you doing? You mind coming up for a minute? Thanks for volunteering. You can barely see him. He didn't volunteer, but thanks for being a good sport. Yeah? Okay. What is your name?
Marlon.
Marlon? Joe. Nice to meet you. What do you do here?
I teach chemistry.
Chemistry. Wow. No, I asked what subject do you teach? Chemistry. Challenge my stereotypes? I'm being honest. I was thinking he worked in the athletic department. Okay, Marlon. Okay. And don't look away. How are you, sir? Want to come up? Thank you. What's your name? Good. Come on up. Only D I got at City College. Yeah. Chemistry. Or biology. It's the same thing, no? All right, what's your name? Ken? Marlon, you guys know each other?
Nope.
Okay, what do you do at the college?
Aviation maintenance.
Aviation maintenance, okay. All right. All right, what I want to do now is illustrate something in regards to these two dynamics, stereotype and prejudice. But in order for this to work, I need all of you to work with me. Some of you may know Ken, some of you may know Marlon. Remove that. You're just seeing these two guys for the very first time. Also, I am now a high school basketball coach, or a college basketball coach. And I've got an opening on the team. I got to fill the roster with one kid, so I put out an announcement in the high school, the college newspaper, the Viking. Is it still the Viking? Yeah. I put out an announcement in the Viking. Rule number 1, know your audience, right? Okay. I put out an announcement. I've got tryouts for the basketball team, and I got 2 kids showing up for the tryouts. I've got Ken, and I've got Marlon. What do you see?
What kind of coach are you? Are you on job with or some other coach?
Ah. Good question. Am I like John Wood? And elaborate for the group. What do you...
Looking for academic performance as well as performance on the court.
Everyone hear that? Are you looking for academic as well as athletic, or just one? Good question. All right, you guys see what I see? Just without knowing anything about these two guys, just looking at it. Are you perhaps starting to formulate some thoughts, like I am? Let's hear it. Let's be honest, what do you see?
I see Ken as a quick.
I'm going to choose Marlon. What else?
I said I see Ken as a quick guard.
A quick guard, maybe? Okay. So what, you're saying Marlon's slow? No, I'm just kidding. Jeff looks faster?
No, I just see Ken as a quick guard on basketball.
Okay. All right.
He's not
Sorry.
going to try out unless he's got something to offer.
Okay, good. So he's not going to come and try out unless he's got something to offer, right? Yes, ma'am.
I'm wondering why you didn't pick me. I can play.
Whoa! Did you hear what I was talking about earlier about keeping it real? She took notes on that and she's keeping it real. What's your name? Arletha, thank you. Thank you. Good for you. All right. What are you seeing here? You're seeing size? What else are you maybe seeing? Ethnicity or race? Who's looking at race? I'll be honest. I see Marlon, I see Ken over there, but I also see race. Now some of you might be thinking, why has race got to play into it? Well, based on who I see playing pro ball, I see big white guys, big black guys playing pro ball. How many average size Asian guys do you see? Oh, I got to start changing that up now. They got this guy, Lynn, right? Gosh, he's ruining everything, this guy, Jeremy Lynn. Okay? Now, the interesting thing about this particular scenario is sometimes I get asked, well, or told, Joe, I don't see race here. I mean, really, aren't we all really part of the human race? And I love everybody, and I don't have a prejudice bone in my body. I love everybody, everybody loves me, and I even have black friends. Now, those are the ones you got to watch out for. We see race, people. We see color. Whether you want to admit or not, we see color. There's nothing wrong with that. Now, in a few minutes, when we talk about what can happen on this continuum when we use color, there might be some issues. Now, watch what might just happen in this particular scenario. As a high school basketball coach, I don't get to the tryouts. I go up to Ken, excuse me, and I say, Ken, I know you're a busy kid on campus. I don't want to waste your time with the tryouts. We've already made a decision. I appreciate you coming out, but I understand they've got an opening on the tennis team. Aren't your people good at tennis? Now we laugh, but you don't think I've heard those? Or with Hispanic kids, why don't you check into the soccer team? Aren't your people good at soccer? And I don't know about you, but to me, that's almost like stepping on somebody when they're already down and perpetuating and reinforcing whatever stereotypes are out there. And once again, think about the damage you could be causing along the way. Now I want to tell Ken, thanks for coming up and volunteering. We have a consolation prize for you. Thank you. Thank you. Another reason why I do this teaching is because I got a lot of issues myself. I got a lot of baggage, so it helps me. All right, Marlon, yes. Congratulations. Don't worry about the tryouts. You just made the basketball team. Now, this whole process might just backfire on me because when I tell Marlon, congratulations, you've just made the basketball team, he might go, great, thanks, coach, but what's a basketball? He might not know anything about ball. And is there a possibility that Ken could turn out to be a better ball player? Absolutely. He may not be as big, as tall, as strong, the right race, whatever that's all about. But maybe he's quick, he's agile, he's got skills, maybe he's a bad dude, maybe he's been playing Little League since he was in diapers. But based on this little scenario up here, did I find that out about the two of them? No. I made a decision, but perhaps my decision was based in part by my own what? Stereotypes and prejudices. All right, let's give Marlon a hand. Thanks, Marlon. That's for you, baby. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Now, who thinks that based on what just transpired up here, I just elevated or escalated to my next layer, which is discrimination? You think I went there? I should probably ask Ken, if this had been a real deal, Ken, would you have felt discriminated against? Yeah. If I had at least taken Ken and Marlon, put them alongside each other, run them through some kind of drills, and then made a decision to go with Marlon based on his skills, would you have at least felt better just given the opportunity? Yeah. And I didn't even offer him that. And discrimination, really, in one word, is nothing more than the action piece. Here's where perhaps we can get into trouble. Taking the other stuff above it, the stereotype and prejudice, and just rolling with it. And you could see how quickly I went through those three dynamics: stereotype, prejudice, discrimination. And I guess as a high school basketball coach or the college basketball coach, I could rationalize what I did here by saying, gosh, Ken, I didn't mean anything by it. The college pays me to put together a winning team. I thought I knew talent when I saw it. I didn't mean anything by it. I'm sorry. And once again, think about the damage we cause along the way. Now, I do this exact same exercise up in the mountains with the high school kids. And it's played out very similar. I'm either a high school basketball coach or a football coach, and it's usually a big white guy, black guy, or Samoan that I'm going to keep, and usually an average size Asian or Latino that I'm going to dismiss. And when I do this exercise up at camp and I ask the question that I just posed to Ken, to the high school student, hey, did you feel that was discrimination? About 50-50, the response is, no, I really didn't think that was discrimination. And then, of course, as a facilitator, you follow it up with a question. Well, tell us a little bit more about that. Why do you feel that was not discrimination? And the typical responses I get are things like this. Well, it happens to me all the time. Or, you know what? No big deal. I was kind of expecting it. That's pretty powerful, folks. And from where you're sitting, based on your social identity, you may not be able to really understand it, but there are students on this campus who hit this brick wall every single day of their life for no other reason than what's on the outside. Some of them don't even have a chance coming through the front door. That's pretty powerful. Now, I'd like to back up and talk about my two favorite ones for a minute. And I think I may have mentioned in my intro that I feel that I've been privileged and fortunate to have spoken to thousands of people all over the country about these human relations issues. But I have a confession to make to each and every one of you here this morning. Every single day in both my personal and professional life, I do that, and I do that. And by virtue of me taking ownership, I'll be the first one to tell you all that I'm prejudiced. Because I am. I'm fully aware of my biases, or I think that I am. I'm fully aware of my prejudices, and I check myself. I work on it every single day. And I guess for me, how I rationalize all this madness, if you will, is that I kind of see this as a filtering system. By doing this, it breaks down my world into small, tiny, manageable pieces. I don't take the time to find out what people are all about. Are you a good person or are you a bad person? Are you going to hurt me or aren't you going to hurt me? So I find myself labeling, categorizing, prejudging. Sometimes I'm right. Actually, many times I'm wrong. I'd like to ask all of you folks a question or two, if I may. You find yourself doing that first one every day? You find yourself doing that one every day? Okay, so for most of you that were shaking your head yes, what would your feelings be if I said to a certain degree, you're all prejudiced? Would that be pretty accurate? I'll take a risk here and step out and say that everybody, whether they want to admit it or not, to a certain degree, is prejudiced. Now, I'd like to think that with most reasonable people, although we have this prejudice, another way I like to regard it is kind of like a cancer. It's there, we all have it, but hopefully it remains dormant. Now, earlier when I said that I check myself every day. I check myself every day to try to ensure that this cancer doesn't do what? I've already realized this is where I'm going to be. My goal is to not venture out too far beyond that, because I know for me, and probably for most of you, once you start putting into action some of the things we're thinking, some of the things we're feeling about people of different racial, ethnic, cultural groups, people that are different than you, that may not look too pretty. That may not look too pretty. Now, in doing these workshops, I typically get a comment that goes something like this. Well, Joe, I understand this thing, stereotype and prejudice, but I've been in education for 30 plus years. And I can tell you pretty much that if it walks like a duck, if it quacks like a duck, if it's sitting in a duck pond, then probably what? It's a duck. Could be a chicken. Lunch will be here in 3 hours, baby. Just chill. It could be a duck. But what I always submit is, what if it's not? What if it's not a duck? And that's happened to me numerous times in my line of work, where I've gone into something or someone thinking or feeling they were a certain way, and I was dead wrong. That person basically blew me out of the water. And the struggle I find myself going through at that particular time is having to come back and reevaluate, reassess, and then I try to come back into it with more of an open mind. And then usually when all that dust settles internally, I ask myself a question or two that goes like this. Okay, Joe, now that this person just proved you wrong, and I'll admit it, I'm human just like anybody else. I don't like to be wrong. I have a certain amount of ego. But now that this person just proved me wrong, I ask myself, am I really going to be 100% open-minded? Or how much of my first impression or my stereotype or prejudice negatively going to impact the relationship for the next semester or quarter that I have with this kid? It gives me something to think about. So really, I think when we talk about these terms, before we shift gears, is to recognize that we all have prejudices. I'll repeat that. I think it's important to recognize that we all have prejudices. The experts say that between the ages of 9 and 12 years old, children have already started to establish some pretty hardcore stereotypes and prejudices about people of different racial, ethnic, cultural groups. It's natural, folks. Recognizing it's the first step. And then making sure we don't act out on it is the next. Because if we do, as I've mentioned, we need to think about what damage we're causing. So I like to use this analogy. Stereotype and prejudice are seeds. And I say that we all possess the seeds. So say you and I want to go out here to the quad at this beautiful campus, and we want to plant a tree. So we throw the seeds in there and we water it, and with time this tree is going to grow and grow and grow and grow. And what can happen to this tree if you don't get the clippers out every once in a while, folks? Get unmanageable, out of control, even do damage along the way. Sometimes it's very subtle, our stereotypes and prejudices. Sometimes they're very blatant. I'm a parent. I have 4 children. And I'm lucky because I've got one in elementary school, one in middle school, One in high school and one in college. I'm a busy dude. That's why I said my wife is a former program director. She had to retire just to stay home and keep up with all these kids. But my 4 kids are all different. Probably reflective of your student community here and in your classrooms. And as a parent, I basically have one fundamental goal for the people, the staff, whether classified or academic, the teachers, the administrators. I basically have one goal for all of them. Whether it's Weaver Elementary or Orange County High School of the Arts or Cal State Long Beach, regardless of where they go to school, I have one goal, is that they learn. That they learn. But you all know better than me, I'm not in the profession of education. You know that in order for real learning to take place, that learning has to take place in what kind of an environment? Safe environment. Safe environment. Does that always take place? I share one personal experience. My son goes to a college. He's in an ethics class. The professor gives an assignment for them to do a class project, a report on any topic they want. My son wants to do a topic on gay rights and separation of church and state. And so in a classroom of 40 children, students, including my son, the professor's going around asking, what are you doing yours on, what are you doing yours on? He comes to my son Jacob and asks, what are you doing yours on? And he says, I'm doing it on gay rights in America with this Prop 209. What's marriage? The 208, thank you. And the professor does one of these. And then in front of the classroom, he asks, are you one of them? And my son says, do I have to answer that? And the professor brushes him off by saying, well, you don't look like one of them. And walks away to the next group. Now, just as an example, an ethics professor, ethics course, you think my son felt safe in that class? Checked out, withdrawn. Studies show that when an institution like this, or any other institution, whether it be elementary, middle school, high school, or college, that if there is a positive school climate, people are going to succeed. Your students are going to succeed. They're going to be able to achieve those goals a heck of a lot easier. And in this room, we have classified, which is a wide range of positions, who deal probably with students as frequently as the faculty that are in this room, the academic. So you each and every one of you play really a vital role in making sure that you work towards creating a safe school climate. Personally, I've had nothing but positive experiences at Long Beach City College. In fact, I have some instructors, former instructors from when I started here back in '81, after high school, that I still communicate with. A professor that was here for many years who's now in Florida, developed a relationship with him and his wife and my wife. He took us out on his sailing ship once when he was here. Some really good experiences here at Long Beach City College. And you know why I think that happens? Anybody know? Why do you come into this profession of education? You come for the money, right? Like I go into law enforcement for the money, right? I was making $14 an hour when I graduated from the academy, put my life on the line for 14 bucks an hour. You don't come into the profession of education for the money. You probably come into this profession of education because you want to make a difference. Because you're passionate about the work that you do. You see and seize an opportunity to form and shape values, perhaps, of some of your kids. Because the sad reality is that many of the students that you're dealing with come from, let's call it dysfunctional families, or no families, or homeless. And many of them are looking to you as a role model, somebody to lead them, somebody to guide them, because so many of the values that used to be fulfilled in the home have now been relegated to who? All of you. What a noble profession. Think about it. I know we get wrapped up. I get wrapped up in my business, and I've been doing it a long time, and just another day and come to work, that I sometimes lose focus as to the nobility and the importance of the jobs that you do. You have the opportunity every single day, multiple times a day, to make a positive impact on the life of so many. I know I don't take advantage and seize those opportunities. It takes time, it takes risk, it takes effort. But I try to get you to think about, as I do for myself, to think about why we came into this profession, to make a difference. It's not about you, as my wife says, it's about the kids. Yeah, all my kids. So there's been a lot of studies. I was up in Ventura yesterday teaching to a wide range of audiences from 14 different districts who are working to close the achievement gap. That the schools, the elementary schools, the middle schools, and the high schools are facing many of the challenges that you are. Do you know why? Money. Okay. What else? Who are you getting? The promised pathways, seamless education. You're getting who? Those kids that they're dealing with. The elementary, the middle school, and the high school, they're coming to you. And if they're not equipped there, you're just trying to get them equipped and get them up to speed, right? There's a connection and a parallel there. But what we have found, and what they have found through California Healthy Kids Survey and the School Climate Survey, is that these interrelated factors, if educators and administrators can focus on these three things, it can play a significant role in creating a positive school climate and getting more and more kids to succeed. You know what turnaround schools are? Turnaround schools, schools in the most poverty-stricken communities. They found that if they focused on this, they were able to turn those schools around. School scores improved, less risk behaviors, less problems in the schools by focusing in on these three areas. Joe, what do you want me to do? Build a relationship with my kids? I don't got time for that. I've got 16 weeks, 17 weeks. I've got curriculum. I've got to get them through there. We've got holidays. We've got flex days like this that are so valuable, right? They're time for you. This is time for you. How do you want me to build relationships? I don't have time for that. I recognize that all of you probably have a full plate. But if you want to make a difference, sometimes it requires going the extra step. All right. Groucho. Okay. How are we doing for time? Okay. So we're going to shift gears real quick and talk about something that we're fighting, something that each and every one of you are fighting in this room, something that exists on this college campus and something that exists on every college campus in America. There's a system in place whereby one particular group, the dominant group, has advantages coming their way inherently. And there are some parts of your student population that are looking around for those same advantages, and guess what? They're nowhere to be found. It's what we call a system of advantage or a form of oppression, meaning some people, some of your students, based on what they look like, their social identity, they're walking through life on this side of the fence. No advantages coming their way. There are other students on your campus, based on their social identity, who walk through life on this side of the fence, meaning they're part of that dominant group that has advantages coming their way, and some students that don't. Now we're going to explore that and get you to think about a couple of things before we do that. I want you to think about your own social identity. Who you are, what you look like, what you bring to the table. But unfortunately, it's also what other people think you are. That's also a part of your social identity. What people think you are and how they place you. I want you to think about your social identity, and I want you to think about this term, empathy. Many different definitions for empathy. I simply define empathy as having some understanding. Trying to have some understanding what somebody on the other side of the fence might be going through. What do they say? You may not get it from, or you don't really know unless you've walked in my shoes. So we're going to explore some of these concepts. And once again, think about what side of the fence do you walk on, what side of the fence do your students walk on. The first one is ageism. This is a system of advantage based on age. It's either age, real, or perceived. How many faculty do we have here in this room? Raise your hands, please. Please keep them up for a second. Thank you. Hi. I asked who was faculty and you raised your hand. You're too young to be a teacher. I'm sorry?
I get misinterpreted for students.
Now, are you the student or are you the teacher? The teacher. How many times did you get that? A lot. Age, real or perceived? What do you know? You're too young. You don't have enough life experience. Those are what high school kids tell me, the high school kids that I work with. Yes?
I've had students walk up to me much older and say, "What other can I work with you?"
Wow. Can you say that a little louder, please?
I've had students in my class walk up to me that are much older and say, "What other can I work with you?"
Wow.
Could you repeat that?
She's had students come up to her and ask her, "What can I learn from you?" because of her age or perceived age. What do you have to offer?
Well, by the end of the semester, they're saying something different.
Say that again?
By the end of the semester, they have a different response.
By the end of the semester, they've got a different take on it because you've filled them up, probably. Okay? And these gentlemen here, you raised your hand, you're in faculty. How long have you been doing this, sir? 29th year. Wow. Commendable. Sir? 12. Okay. Let me ask you this. I know you would never hear this. What's your name, sir? Jeff? Jeff or somebody with 25, 30, 35 years on this campus? I mean, that guy deserves an applause. Wow. And you're still saying? Not sure. It's commendable. It's commendable. What I hear in this profession from your colleagues is, what does she have to offer? These young whippersnappers coming on board today, they don't have any life experience. And what I hear from the other end of the spectrum is, wow, that guy Joe Levy, he needs to go. Been around way too long. You know, the cops are saying that about me probably, you know. We need to put that Levy dude out to pasture. Out of touch. Can't connect with the kids, you know, the students. You get it at both ends. It seems like whether you're young or whether you're old, either real or perceived, you've got some kind of drama surrounding you, and middle of the road seems to be okay. But what I hear over and over again from high school kids and college kids that I deal with is that adults and teachers are constantly putting them down, telling them, what do you know? You are too young. You don't have enough life experience. Sit down. Wow. That's powerful. I don't know about you, but some of the most insightful things I've heard have come from the mouth of babes. My own kids or kids that I deal with in the community. Incredible. And they're constantly being shut down. True story, right next door. Used to be McDonnell Douglas, now Boeing. A guy had been there 30 plus years, quality employee, came to work every day, did a great job. Management went up to him and said, hey, Fred, we're phasing out your position. They gave him a golden handshake, gave him a couple extra bucks, sent him out the door. 2-3 months later, who did they bring in for that same job? Johnny, you know. The name, what does that name imply? You know, a young guy, right? Yeah, it was a young guy. Semantics. See how our Johnny, right out of college, less pay, less benefits. The guy ended up filing a lawsuit, basically proved ageism and won some money. A system of advantage based on age, alive and well in our society. What really bothers me about being middle of the road, you know, right now for me, is, you know, I go to Denny's with my mom and dad, and they're getting that senior discount, and I'm not. What's up with that, right? Is that a system of advantage? If you're a senior, you get a discount? It's a system of advantage. Or if you're young, show your student ID, you don't pay the 12 bucks at the movie theater. A system of advantage. This is a system that we're fighting. We're also fighting ableism. A system of advantage based on ability, whether you are able-bodied or whether you have a physical, emotional, or mental disability. Now, for most of your students who are able-bodied, probably very, very few challenges in trying to maneuver and navigate around this campus. And they're still tardy. Somebody with a physical, emotional, or mental disability is going to have some challenges. And over the years, we have had a lot of strides with ADA to make colleges and other public places more compliant, and we made strides. But if you're able-bodied and you walk through life on this side of the fence, you may not have the empathy or the understanding of what some of your student population who have these challenges are going through. I will give you an example. True story. I talked about my wife. I'm talking about her again. She allows me permission to tell these stories. In order to go to camp as a youth leader, she has about 300 volunteers that she uses to do camp prep and human relations education, facilitation training, all that. So she has camp prep on a Saturday morning. She held her volunteer staff to the same standards as her paid staff, which means if she has volunteers that signed up to show up at 8 o'clock on a Saturday morning for camp prep, she expects them to be there. So she's holding a camp prep in downtown on a Saturday morning, and one of her volunteers comes in an hour and a half late. She can't wait to the break to just lay into him, right? Now let me describe this volunteer's social identity. At the time, I'll call him Joe. At the time, Joe was 17 years old, a high school kid, in a wheelchair, African American, baggy clothing, and wore his hair in braids. Now just as a little side note, how many times do you think Joe gets hit up with comments like, wow, who did you bang with? Wow, when did you get shot in a drive-by? He gets it all the time. The reality is Joe has nothing to do with gangs. He's a role model student. He was instrumental in forming the first Human Relations Club on his high school campus. He's received accolades and awards for the work around human relations. And the reason why he's in a wheelchair is not because he was shot in a drive-by. It has nothing to do with gangs. But he has spastic cerebral palsy. That's why he's in a wheelchair. But he gets that stuff all the time. So at the break, my wife says, hey, what's up, Joe? Why aren't you taking this seriously? How dare you come an hour and a half late? Joe, in his wheelchair, looks in his lap, looks up at Lisa, my wife, and starts to relate to her why he was an hour and a half late. After speaking with him and gaining a little bit of insight and having a little empathy and a paradigm shift, ultimately, she realized that he got up at the crack of dawn and tried to get there before 8 o'clock to help her pass out the materials. But because he lives in Long Beach and relies on rapid transit, when he got to the bus stop, he waited for bus after bus after bus to go by because none of the wheelchair ramps were supposedly working. Now you talk about my wife having a little paradigm shift. Yeah, because she's able-bodied. She walks through life on this side of the fence. To get to the camp prep that morning, all she had to do was walk down the steps of our house, get in the minivan, turn the key, and go. Very few challenges. But for somebody with a physical, emotional, or mental disability, there's going to be some challenges. The next ism that we're going to explore is sexism. A system of advantage based on what? Don't say sex. It's not politically correct. No, we could say that. Yeah, it's based on gender, right? Can we say sex? It's based on sex. It says sexism. It's in the word. It's based on sex, whether you're male or female. Who's got more advantages, men or women? Men? Men, would you agree with that? Well, yes, but the pendulum's been swinging, Joe. You know, it's coming back the other way. Men have more advantages, folks. The last stat I saw for the same job the man and the woman are doing to the dollar, the woman gets 72 cents to 76 cents, depending on what stat you read, to the dollar that the man's getting. Positions, you know, yesterday I had 110 people in my class up in Ventura. 90%, what gender? Well, you should probably ask, well, who was the group? If you tell me who the group was, if it was administrators, I'll tell you it's all men. All women, mostly teachers. A system of advantage based on men and women. Heterosexism, kind of a new buzz one. Alive and well, though. Heterosexism, a system of advantage based on whether you're heterosexual or whether you're gay, lesbian, bisexual, transgender, or questioning. And I usually preface this particular ism at saying, based on my experience in teaching this for years, I know that people come to the table with religious, ethical feelings about this particular ism. We all do, perhaps. But I want you to think about it in the context of empathy, and I ask the question, who's got more advantages, people that are straight or people that are gay? Of course. Things as simple as marriage, something that this state and this country is dealing with as we speak. A man and woman want to get married, you fill out some paperwork, you jump through a couple of hoops, boom, it's going to happen. Two partners, two males, two females want to get married, ain't going to happen. Excuse me. In December, your department may have a holiday party, and everybody's invited. And if you're heterosexual, you're maybe going to bring your significant other, your wife, your husband to the party. And if you're gay, you know what the answer is for the RSVP. You ain't going. But maybe you are. What would your colleagues think or feel if I showed up with my partner? And once again, that speaks to what kind of an environment do you have even within your little silos. So you've got a culture on Long Beach City College, and then you've got little co-cultures going on in the aviation department, in the history department, in the speech department, in the law enforcement department, all these beautiful departments. Depending on where you work and what the culture is like and what the culture will tolerate and what they won't tolerate dictates many times whether you're going to bring your partner or significant other. And for your students that are gay, lesbian, bisexual, and transgender, holy smokes. Come up to camp, sit in one of those dialogue groups, and hear some of the devastating things that are happening to them from their peers and from their teachers. Did you know that the average high school student in America will hear, throughout the course of one day, 25 anti-gay epithets? You're gay, that's queer, you're a fag, don't be a faggot. 25 times a day. And about 90% of the time, teachers fail to address it Oh, it's just kids being kids. Well, what if they call the African-American kid a nigger? Oh, well, we can't, no, I'll send him down to the principal. No, we can't have that. So what are you saying then? That it's okay to dehumanize this group of kids and this can't? What's that culture all about? It's called the power of words. And we're each and every one of you, and we're the school administration on the high school campus, what they'll tolerate, what they won't, where they place value. The next ism, racism. I like talking about racism. You know why? Anybody know why? Because it's alive and well. And just to make matters worse, we as a country, whose history? Anybody history? Teachers, history? They have a department meeting. Got it. Okay. So what are you saying? They saw a cop going to be teaching. I got better things to do. All right, so we know that this country has struggled for many, many years in regards to race relations, and that will continue in my opinion. But I think what also is prevalent and alive and well, I'll throw it out in the form of a question. Do you think that racism is just a white, black, black, brown, white, Asian, black, Asian thing? Or do you think there exists racism within the same racial group? Of course, interracial racism. There's racism and drama going on in each of these groups. And when I walk on a high school campus in Long Beach, or anywhere for that matter, it's nutrition or it's lunch, I walk onto the quad, and what do you see in the quad? All these different cliques. All the surfer dudes here, all the nerd, all the white guys here, all the black guys here, the cheerleaders here. Everyone's in their own little cliques. And when I talk to high school kids about this dynamic, one of the things I throw out there for them to think about is that if they take a really close look at the group they're in, they might find that they only have one thing in common with their friends. And it may be nothing more than skin color. And if they take a risk and step out into one of these other groups, they may find that they have 4, 5, 6 things in common and maybe better friends than somebody from another group. But we all know that peer pressure is a killer. Yes, sir?
Can you explain to me why some colleges have dorms for African Americans, Hispanics, and
I wasn't aware of that. Okay.
to me that's segregation, and they're trying to avoid the problem.
Okay. So certain colleges, from what well, if that happens, if that's happening, and I have no reason to believe if you're telling me that there's colleges with dorms that are racial separate dorms, I can tell you that in the African American and the Latino dorms, there's something else going on. You know what that is? Jadism. Even within the African American and the Latino community, they're separating and valuing and pigeonholing people based on shade. In the African American community, what's more valued, light skin or dark skin? Marlon? Light skin. And in the Latino, Hispanic community, what's more valued, light skin or dark skin? Light skin. And when you turn on Noticias, channel 34 and 52, and you look at the newscasters, they look more white than me. When you look at billboards and posters and advertisements, the light-colored contacts and light-colored skin seems to be more valued in the African American and Latino community. True story. Friends of ours, a Latino couple, they're both light-skinned. They had their very first baby. And they're in the hospital, I'm at the hospital, but the baby came out kind of dark. You gonna let me finish my story? You're having your own little thing going on? Hey, this isn't about you, this is about me. Yes.
Is there a tanning bed at the hospital?
What's that?
Is there a tanning bed at the hospital?
That's a good question. Was there a tanning booth at the hospital? The kid came out dark. I don't know why. I didn't have issue with it. Because I'm there for a couple hours watching the family and friends show up. Ooh! Unbelievable. Family coming to see the very first child, in some cases the very first grandchild. They come to run to the room to see him. Ay. Mira, ¿qué pasó? Ay, ¿qué? Ah, mira, un negrito, mira, ay, ay. I swear to you. Wow.
My brother and his wife, like me, and his wife was very fair-skinned. And they pushed this incubator across the hall, and there was this really fat, Mexican-colored, dark-skinned, dark black hair. And I'm like, whose baby is that? And then it's like, oh my gosh, that's my niece, that's my brother.
Right.
It's like, where did they come from?
Very interesting. Very interesting. Thank you. Grant?
But here's the scary part. If you had a magic wand, and you could wave that magic wand and turn every single person in this room into the light shade of gray that your shirt is, and then to add a little flair, a little pizzazz, you took your magic wand and went and sprinkled pink polka dots over every one of you sitting in here, how long would it take before someone began walking around counting the number of pink polka dots that you had on your body and saying basically if you didn't have a certain number of pink polka dots, you aren't as good as I am. You see, it's the nature of the beast, folks, and it starts at birth.
Do you have my notes? Take away my, I'm coming to that. Grant was one of my mentors in the police force. He's retired from the Long Beach Police Department, now teaches here. You're absolutely right, Grant. People will always find something that's different about them. All right, we're winding down, a couple more isms and we'll wrap it. Religious oppression, alive and well as we speak today. What's been happening in the Middle East for thousands of years, what's been happening in Ireland, Catholics, Protestants, killing one another, a form of, they're all Irish, but they're all, they're killing one another, a form of religious oppression. And the last one that I want to spend just a couple of minutes on is classism. The haves versus the have-nots. And I think that although racism will continue to plague our communities, personally I think classism is going to be a bigger issue. But a lot of people think that classism is just a money issue. It's not. Please help me brainstorm. What are some other classist issues that are alive and well? And this, yes. Education level. Thank you. What else? Opportunities? What else? Looks. All the materialistic items, right? What about job and position? Anything else? Medical. Yes. And in the back?
Ancestry.
Ancestry. Where you came from. What about language? Do you speak the language or don't you? Yes. Neighborhood. Where do you live? Do you live or do you own? Yes, sir. You're absolutely right. Bullying. More and more schools now are, my wife's on a task force in our kids' school district. They're developing curriculum, anti-bullying curriculum, because we're seeing murder taking place as a direct result of somebody feeling isolated because of one of these factors, perhaps. It's the same thing what we're talking about, folks. How many in here have an education, have a degree? Somebody said we all do. Well, what kind of a degree do you have? Or when the hip goes up, well, where did you get your degree from? How long did it take you to get your degree? Classism is alive and well, even in academia. I was sitting on a panel a few years ago, a national panel on hate crimes, a subject that I teach. I was on this panel, very distinguished, with everybody that had doctorates in the field. I didn't. So they're going around and talking, and at the first break, the 5 of us are off to the side, and the 5 of us are asking, well, it was them, I was just taking it all in. You know, where'd you get your degree from? All these questions they asked me. Well, where do you have your degree from? You know, what kind of a degree do you have? And at the time, this was about 20 years ago, I had only high school. And I told them, I'm sorry, I don't have a degree, I'm just high school. For the rest of the day, they would not have anything to do with me. I don't know. Job and position, well, what do you do at the college? Are you faculty? Or are you classified? Now, let me tell you something. The fact that this college has brought together classified and faculty is incredible. You don't see that every place. You don't see that every place. I travel all over the country. Everyone's got their own separate stuff going on, and now things are starting to change. Because if we're talking about building a safe, respectful, inclusive school community for all your kids, it means that all of you, stakeholders, and each and every one of you play a vital role in that, should be at the table. Yes, sir?
I just had to say, when you say faculty or classified, for years, 12 years, I had a full beard. And off campus, when I tell them I work at Long Beach City College, they go, what did you teach? Yeah. Like shave my beard, oh, what do you do?
Based on looks. Yeah. All right. We're going to wind now, and I want to close with these isms. If you remember, I asked you to think about a couple of things as we explored these isms. Your social identity. Which side of the fence do you fall on or walk on? What side of the fence do your students walk on? And I asked you to think about empathy as well. It is my firm belief that everybody on this school campus, all of your students have opportunity. I believe that. However, for your students that walk through life on this side of the fence where they got a lot of advantage coming their way, they've got an elevator ready for them, button pushed, straight up to where they want to go, meaning very few challenges. For many of your students who walk through life on this side of the fence who don't have those same advantages, they could still have the opportunities, I believe it. But they're looking around for that elevator, and there's not an elevator anywhere in sight. If they're lucky, maybe they have steps and hurdles, and maybe even spikes along the way, meaning there's going to be some challenges. Now, just based on what you know about me and what I look like, where do you think Joe Levy walks through life every day? What side of the fence? This side or this side? This side. I walk through life as a middle-class, middle-aged, straight, white guy. And because I walk through life that way, I got a lot of advantage coming my way. And guess what? I take advantage of everything that comes my way. It's a very selfish approach. And although I walk through life on this side of the fence, where I've usually got that elevator ready for me to take me straight up to where I want to go, I try to instill in my kids and I try to live my life to try to bring other people on board. That's that whole trying to make a difference piece. Trying to make a difference. You're all part of this team, as I alluded to. Whether you're classified or faculty, your role is just as important as the person next to you. And a team is a number of people with complementary skills. You may not be suited for the classroom and you may not be suited for a classified job, but you're all part of this vital team committed to a common purpose. And when it comes to this job, I think there is, as I mentioned, no higher calling than to be in a position to play such a vital role in the lives of our young people. And I want to just personally commend each and every one of you for doing the job that you do. That's all the time I have. I want to thank you very much for the opportunity. Thank you.